Hi, everyone. Welcome. Sorry, we were a few minutes late there, dealing with some technical issues. Sam, just confirming that the session is being recorded. Okay, hi, everyone. So while you're joining, we're going to get started very soon, but we're just going to give everyone a few more minutes to arrive. Hopefully, everyone did join early anyway. But while we wait, if you can see on the screen, tell me in the chat, where are you at in your AI adoption curve? So are you in the honeymoon phase? Are you initially just excited and experimenting? Or are you B, you're facing some practical realities and you're navigating access and security issues and starting to invest in training? Sam, can we mute everyone? Thank you. Or are you C? Are you in deeper integration? You're designing workflows, you're solving ethical dilemmas, you're proving value, or are you D? You're moving towards mastery, diving into automation, personalization, staying ahead of the curve. Tell me where you're at. I can't see the chat right now, which is really frustrating. But Sam, perhaps you can tell me, what are we getting? What's coming through?
Honeymoon phase, integrating a honeymoon, initial excitement, honeymoon.
Great. Okay, so we got a lot of people right at the beginning of their AI adoption curve. That's very cool. You're in the right place. And I am confident that after the time we spend together today, you are going to be feeling ready to move into B or even C. So let's get started. I think we are 4 minutes past, so I'm going to dive in. So welcome, everybody. This is a really special moment because we have all of our digital marketing career accelerator learners and alumni all together in one session today. So my name is Claire Dupree. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more in a bit, but just in case you don't know where you are or why you're here, today we are kicking off the AI learning track for the LSE Digital Marketing Career Accelerator. Today is session 1 of 4. And we're going to be looking at the foundations of AI for digital marketers. So like I said, my name is Claire Dupree. You may recognize me from some of your program videos. I'm a seasoned digital marketer. I've been in the game for over 15 years now, specializing mostly in the realms of brand and product marketing, strategic leadership. I'm currently head of brand and product marketing at FourthRev. But I'm also the founder and community leader of an AI community called Maiden that I launched back in February this year. And we've been meeting every single week since the beginning of February. We're a group of digital marketers, creatives, communication professionals from all across the world. And our commitment was to get together on a weekly basis so that we could have an accountability forum to learn AI together. So it's been a phenomenal journey leading that community. And I owe a lot of what I know in AI to this actual community. So today's presentation is informed by these learning circles that I've been running. It's based on the most common topics, the discussions, the challenges that I've actually seen come up among my members over the last year. So it's real world insights, it's real case studies I'm going to try and share with you, but it's also informed by just some of my own personal experience working with AI. I am a serious AI and marketing enthusiast, so I'm really excited to share what I know with you all today. And just moving along here. So I use AI daily. So just to give you a sense of practicalities of how AI actually works in marketing. I'm a practicing digital marketer. I work in digital marketing on a day-to-day basis. And I wanted to share with you just some of the things that I've done over the last few weeks to inspire you as to what's possible, considering a lot of you are in the honeymoon phase of your AI evolution or your AI literacy evolution. So this was something I built just last week. It is a basic web app that I coded with ChatGPT and Claude and created for my team to understand how many emails a specific lead would be getting in a certain period of time. So it's a really basic tool, but it overcomes a pain point that we were feeling. And that was we didn't have visibility over how our automated emails plus our ad hoc emails were going out against our calendar. And what this tool let our team do was open it up on their desktop, chuck in the date that a lead would come into our system, and give us a view into what does that mean for the amount of emails or the types of emails that they'd be getting over a series of time. This took me about 10 minutes to do using ChatGPT and Claude, and it's super powerful, super impactful. Something else that I did recently was we actually created a custom GPT. For those of you who don't know what a custom GPT is, it's basically a fine-tuned version of ChatGPT, something I would highly recommend you look into and learn more about. But we've got a custom GPT that is a positioning expert for some of our programs, where we've actually trained it on our content strategy, our messaging pillars, and we can use that to help us audit content that we're creating, ideate, sense check any understanding against customer insights, all the stuff that would be impossible for a human brain to retain on a day-to-day basis. We've got this assistant who's helping us think through strategically what messages may we have missed, what messages should we be prioritizing, etc. So a really powerful tool that helps and supports our copy and content team specifically. What else? Well, I use ChatGPT and Notebook.LM. If you don't know Notebook.LM, oh my gosh, my favorite AI tool. I've got a little video for you that will show you how you can embrace Notebook.LM and how you can use it in your marketing. But I use that daily almost for analyzing survey and interview data. I use a tool called Napkin AI to create visuals for reports. I use Claude to give me feedback to my design agency on redoing sections against best practice UX, because Claude is really phenomenal with its visual capabilities. I create lots of custom GPTs. I've actually got one that helps me give tough feedback to team members that's kind and constructive. So I like to sense check my feedback before I give it to a team member. So I built a custom GPT for that. I use Flux and Runway ML, which are two tools to illustrate creative concepts for new ads that I'm thinking of to help illustrate what I'm thinking. And then I use Make.com, Perplexity, and ChatGPT to build competitive intelligence automations that help me keep track of changes that my competitors are making on a weekly basis to their positioning strategies, their website copy, etc. So just to show you, this is just my practice, and there are so many applications of AI that I want to inspire you to jump into this space and really level up your marketing expertise by adding that lens of AI. So what we're going to cover today is 5 foundational topics that every digital marketer should know. And I've constructed our entire session around these 5 foundational topics. And each one builds on the last, equipping you with the skills, the insights that you're going to need to really use AI confidently, responsibly, and strategically in your work. And these 5 topics are not topics that I think are important. They're actually 5 topics that have emerged as being consistent and important in my community of digital marketers in their AI literacy journey that they've had since February. So this is real world feedback. And like I said, as far as possible, I'll draw on real world examples to help you as we go along. So what those 5 topics are is, firstly, every digital marketer needs to actually have an understanding of the AI landscape and its rapid evolution. We already know that AI is moving incredibly fast. Many marketers feel very overwhelmed by the pace of this change and are struggling to keep up with just the fundamentals. So we want to spend some time just understanding this landscape and what that means for how we have to stay up to date and how we should focus our learnings and efforts. The second topic that every digital marketer should know is prompt engineering. One of the biggest challenges in using AI effectively is getting high quality outputs. And I often hear in my learning circle and amongst marketers that people feel disappointed by generic or irrelevant results that they're getting when they're using LLMs. And what that often comes down to is actually ineffective prompts and abandoning your prompt journey too early. It really is an iterative process. So this skill is really essential for improving the output quality that you're going to get from using AI. So we're not going to go into it too deeply. We could spend an entire session on this, but we are just going to cover it at a high level to make sure that it's a topic that you can go away and do some further work on. The next topic that every digital marketer needs to know is how to choose the right AI tool for the job. So there are so many AI tools available. It can be really overwhelming to figure out which one do you bring in for which tasks. And sometimes choosing the wrong tool can often lead you to, wasting your time, wasting money, etc. So we're going to discuss a little bit about how to actually select the right AI tool for each job. I'm going to share some criteria for how you evaluate your tools and give you this framework to try and pick tools that actually align to your specific workflow and goals. And then we're going to move on to the next topic, which is about designing AI-powered workflows and automation. So while AI can increase productivity at an individual level, the real power of AI is figuring out how do you integrate it into your existing workflows. And when I say workflow, what I'm meaning is the processes that you have in place to do specific marketing activity. So we're going to take a look at how you actually bring AI into your processes, not just exist as an individual productivity tool. And then finally, we're going to talk about responsible and ethical AI use. This is actually the topic for session 4 of this series, so we won't go into too much of a deep dive on it, but it is super critical for us to acknowledge and just touch on in the context of looking at the foundational topics. So that's where we'll close the session today. So some quick housekeeping. I see a lot of you already have your cameras on. I can see some faces, which is great. Please do keep them on. It's nice to see your reactions, and you can, I can't see the chat, but if you have a burning question, put your hand up. I can see that. Otherwise, Sam will be monitoring the chat for any questions. Please do drop questions using the Q&A function at any point, and we will go through them at the Q&A session towards the end. I'm hoping to talk for about 40 minutes and then close for 20 minutes of Q&A. If we run over time, I'm happy to stay on if anybody has any further questions that they have of me. I don't have anything immediately after the session, so I can be here to address any burning questions that you have. There's a lot of calls to share in the chat throughout. So this is really your time. You've shown up, you've given yourself this hour to learn about AI. So please use it. Please, I invite you to really make the most of it. So where I ask you to share in chat, share what you have, ask questions, etc. And let's have fun. Let's enjoy learning. AI is really exciting. I'm really passionate about it. So let's see how this session goes together. And obviously the recording and the extra resources that I mentioned will be shared beyond the session today. So if you do need to drop off at any stage, there is a recording coming, but you will miss out on those live engagement elements and real-time Q&A that we're going to get into. So let's get into it. Sam or Luke, any pressing questions or comments that we need to address before I dive in?
Not yet. I think we're good to go.
Thank you so much, Sam. Okay, so we are going to get started with our very first foundational topic, which I said already was understanding the AI landscape and its rapid evolution. We're going to move quite fast. We're going to go far, deep. It's going to be a lot. So I do encourage you to take notes if you can, but otherwise just rewatch this recording. Use Notebook LM to go back and take the recording and engage with it afterwards so that you can learn with it. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But let's get started. So the AI landscape for marketers has evolved dramatically in just a few years. It's gone really, really fast. And what started really as basic text generation has transformed into sophisticated adaptive intelligence that can now handle multiple formats and understand complex context and nuance. So I want to walk through this evolution a little bit more, because if we want to understand where we're going, we need to actually understand where we've come from. So in 2020, we saw the first real breakthrough with GPT-3, and this was our very first introduction to what AI could do for marketing. It really was basic content generation. It was like simple completion tasks, and people were really experimenting with basic marketing copy outputs at this point. But the biggest limitation back in 2020 was that these outputs were really inconsistent and they required a lot of heavy editing. So it was like having this really enthusiastic intern who needed very close supervision. Then in 2022, we moved on and we saw models like ChatGPT come onto the playground, and GPT 3.5, and that was a significant leap forward. It's what we call the ChatGPT moment, which happened in 2022. And that gave us more coherent, contextual responses. It gave us better understanding of nuance. It gave us the ability to actually maintain conversation threads with prompting. So this was where marketers really started to feel practical application, particularly in the realms of customer service and content creation. Outputs became reliable enough to use without having to edit them too much like we had to do in 2020. 2023 came along, and this was just a watershed moment with the launch of GPT-4 and similar models. You'll see I'm just referencing GPT in this context, ChatGPT, because that is, for all intents and purposes, the flagship AI model that gets all the PR. So we're using that as our benchmark. But in 2023, we had GPT-4 come along. And it had an integration of image understanding. It was more sophisticated with reasoning, and it was able to handle more complex and multi-step tasks. This is where we saw that multimodal format come into the playground as well. So at this point was when AI became really versatile for marketers, because we could now use it from everything from social media strategy to data analysis to creative concepting. It really gave us a lot to play with, and that was just last year. And now in 2024, we are moving into this era of what's being called adaptive intelligence. And this is really being shaped by real-time learning and adaptation. We're able to do personalization at scale. It's allowing us to do strategic insight generation. It's where AI becomes not just a tool, but rather actually a strategic partner in marketing decisions. It's really exciting, a little bit terrifying, but yeah, the opportunity for marketers right now is huge. So each phase has dramatically increased our marketing productivity as we've moved from one to the other. We've moved from basic task automation to workflow enhancements to being able to do cross-channel integration, and now into the space of strategic automation. So as we've moved through each of these evolutions, the required skills that we've had to have as marketers has also shifted. So we've had to go from just knowing basic prompt writing to understanding model capabilities to now thinking about how do we actually do strategic implementation with AI. And that means our personal learning journey also has to grow with this evolution. Some of us may still be starting with basic prompt engineering and understanding model capabilities, which is more early evolution stuff, but that's okay. There is still time to catch up. One of the first questions I often get when I talk to a slide like this is it too late to start learning? No, just understanding that this evolution is actually happening can help you learn faster, because you can see the logical progression of capabilities as they've happened. Do you have to master every single stage of this evolution? No, you need to focus on the current capabilities of what's happening now in 2024, but understand the progression because it helps you predict where we're actually heading. So the key takeaway of this is that, this evolution isn't just about this tech getting better and fast. It's about AI becoming far more aligned with how we as marketers actually work. So understanding this progression will help you to make better decisions about which tools you want to invest in, know what capabilities that you should expect and demand, and really prepare for what's coming next. So now that we understand how we got here, I want to just move on to talking to some of the common challenges that I see marketers facing in amongst this evolution. And when we talk about these challenges, what we really have to talk about is the pace of this evolution, because AI is moving at a pace that we have never seen before. Every few months, a new foundational model or a major update to an existing one will come out. And with every one of these updates, the tools the tools built on these models, like ChatGPT and Claude, etc., they gain new capabilities, and some of them actually fundamentally change how we use them. So the first challenge that most marketers face in this landscape is pure overwhelm. Every week there's this new tool, this new feature, this update. I'm very immersed in AI, and I feel this overwhelm of like, how do I keep up? There's all this new stuff happening all the time. It's fast. And it's exhausting and difficult to keep up, let alone learn them all. So the second challenge that I hear marketers often report in my learning circles is total uncertainty. Which tools do I start with? Where do I start? So this is our second challenge. And with our own personal limitation of time, resources, budget, which tools should you actually learn? Which ones are worth the investment? And a lot of people freeze at this point because they just don't know where to start. So I'm hoping by the end of today, you'll know exactly where to start if you haven't started or if you're feeling this. And the final challenge that I see marketers talk about is just this fear of skills becoming obsolete and this time pressure that comes with this, because all of this is happening under intense time pressure. You're already handling your regular marketing responsibilities. Where do you find the time to master all these tools? And if what you learn today is going to be obsolete tomorrow? And this is really the underlying fear that drives those first two questions. There's this concern that if you're not mastering the tools quickly enough, you're going to become less valuable or less effective in your role. And it's a real concern in what is already a fast-paced industry. So tell me in the chat, again, I can't see this, so Sam, maybe you can just echo what's going on, but which of these are you feeling? Do any of these resonate? what's your biggest concern when it comes to keeping up with AI? I would love to hear any of those coming through. Sam, feel free to quickly tell me what's coming through on the chat.
Yeah, sure. There is a question as well. Why do we need to learn prompts for ChatGPT if today AI can analyze what we need from it to do?
We will get into that a little bit later. So put a pin in that question
Right.
just in the prompt engineering section. Thanks.
Then we've got a option B, all of them, overwhelmed,
Cool.
multiple options. Another question, which tools should I learn? All of them for me as well. Another B.
Awesome. Okay, so we're all amongst friends here, and we're all feeling these challenges. Thank you, Sam. And to whoever asked the prompt engineering question, we will come back to that in that section. Okay. So what I really want to do today is talk a little bit around how do we turn these AI challenges into advantages for ourselves as marketers. So there are challenges, and my biggest message out to you in this is, like, in your learning journey, where to start is start with models and not tools. So the key isn't trying to master every single tool that comes along. It's instead, it's about understanding the foundational principles and the foundational models that power all of these tools. So think about it as like learning to cook versus memorizing recipes. So when you understand the foundations of cooking, you can work with any ingredients that are going to come your way. So when we invest our time in focusing on building knowledge of the foundational models, and I will talk to what I mean by foundational models in a bit. When we do that, we turn each one of these challenges into an opportunity. So we start transforming our fear of overwhelm or our concern of overwhelm into adaptability. So building foundational knowledge of the foundational models gives you a powerful advantage in adaptability, because when you understand how AI models actually work, you're no longer just learning tools, but you're developing tool agnostic skills, because a new AI tool will come out and no problem, because you actually understand the engine under the hood. And you'll see this because often when you have an AI tool in your tech stack, it allows you to pick the underlying model that it's going to use in that tool. So you need to understand that underlying model first and foremost. So if you know what ChatGPT-4 can do, you can effectively use any tool that's built on top of it. And by focusing on those core models, you're actually gaining this flexibility to adapt and avoid feeling this constant need to play catch up with every latest tool that comes onto the radar. Our second advantage that we can get out of this is turning that uncertainty into confidence. So, if you're uncertain about which tools to learn, we need to focus on developing knowledge of the foundational models that can help you quickly evaluate all new AI tools, because you understand what powers them. You won't be guessing anymore. You'll be making informed strategic choices about which tools actually serve your marketing goals. And most importantly, you're making these decisions based on their underlying model's capabilities, not just a tool interface or marketing promise. And that's critical when you are figuring out where to start with AI. And lastly, let's look at how we turn our concern of time pressure into the strategic advantage of efficiency. Well, if we focus on learning the foundational models, that time pressure actually decreases, because you understand the foundations, you can pick up new tools faster. There's no more learning from scratch. You've got this solid foundation of knowledge. Switching between tools becomes seamless because you understand their shared foundation. And when a new tool launches using a model that you know, you can start using it almost immediately. You don't have to worry about learning the actual tool. So my question out to you is just thinking about any AI tools that you are currently playing with or experimenting right now. Do you even know what foundational models underpin them? Like what is what's underneath the hood? That could really change how you use your tools and how you get the best out of them. Okay, so let me move on here, find my place. Okay. So yeah, just understanding the foundational models will help you to really stay ahead in the AI evolution rather than focusing on individual tools. So when I'm talking about foundational models, what do I actually mean? And this graph or this chart will actually show you what I mean by foundational models. So there's three ways we can look at what's going on in the AI landscape. There are foundational models, which is it's all of these things that underpin the interface of ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. So your foundational models are the engine. It's your GPT-4, it's your GPT-o1 preview. Those are all the different models underneath ChatGPT's interface. On Claude side or Anthropic's Claude, you've got a model like Claude 3.5 Sonnet or Claude Haiku. Those are the models that underpin Claude. And under Gemini, you're probably looking at Gemini 1.5 Pro as the model that you're wanting to know. So my guidance to you is to really start first and foremost with these foundational models rather than the tools that sit on top of them. You'll see in the last row of this graph, those are the that's what I mean, the distinction I'm making between tools and models. So you've got these specialized tools like Jasper, which is a really well-known tool, and Copy AI or Writesonic. All of these actually sit on top of ChatGPT 4 or Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So if you're wanting to decide where do you start with your AI learning journey, focus on the foundational models. An interesting thing happened when ChatGPT actually was launched, when the interface of ChatGPT was launched and 3.5 came out and then 4 came out, was Jasper's revenue took a huge hit. And the reason why Jasper's revenue took a hit is because people suddenly realized they could get the same functionality by going direct to source. They didn't have to access the model via a tool. So that's just one example of why you should really focus on foundational models before worrying about tools. And that's where you're going to win in your AI journey, is if you spend the time in the actual tools, in the actual models. Okay, moving on. Oh, another thing I wanted to actually just mention before we move on is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He actually issued a warning to anybody building tools on top of ChatGPT. And I can't remember his exact quote, but he said something like, we are going to steamroll you. We don't mean to. It's just that when we release a new model, we're not thinking about what you're building. We're thinking about our mission, which is to reach that moment of AGI, artificial general intelligence. So when ChatGPT, for example, when OpenAI rather comes out with something like GPT-5, if that model is substantially different to the models that came before it, imagine how the tools built on top of it are going to have to scramble to readjust the way they work because the underlying model has changed so substantially. Again, another reason that the best way to future-proof your knowledge in AI is to not invest in learning tools, but rather to invest in time spent in the foundational models. Sam, I did see a question come through. Was there anything I needed to tackle before we move on?
It was just a question on what do you mean specifically by foundation model coding language?
So no, not coding.
I think you already answered, Claire. Thank you. That was my question before.
Okay, you got it. Cool, thank you. So yeah, for clarity, foundational models are the things you can access directly through ChatGPT or Claude. They're actual models. Go and play with them. Okay. To give you just a quick sense of my personal tech stack, there we go, is just to show you what I use from a direct model access perspective. I use ChatGPT almost daily. I have a paid account. I use various models on ChatGPT, and we'll talk a little bit to which models are good for what later on. I use different models depending on the task that I am doing. So I might switch between o1 Preview or o1 Mini or ChatGPT 4, 4.0, just whatever I'm working on, I'll switch underlying models. I use Claude, and there I specifically use 3.5 Sonnet. I use Notebook LM, which is a fantastic tool. It's actually not a model, interestingly, even though it's listed under a model. It's so unique that I've listed it here in the models section. It's powered by Gemini, but it's something called RAG, which is Retrieval Augmented Generation, which is a different type of AI. It's not generative AI. It's more reliable and accurate, so it doesn't hallucinate like your Gen AI does. And then I use Perplexity, which is also a research interface. It does have underlying models, but I've also put that as direct model access. And then I use Gemini for a very specific use case. And that is that Gemini allows you to upload video prompts. So if you go and do a screen recording on your desktop and you pull up a landing page and you screen record and say, this is a landing page of the product I'm trying to sell, and you see this part and you see this part, and you save that video, you can actually upload that video into Gemini as the prompt. You don't have to write the prompt or speak the prompt, which is quite a unique factor of Gemini. I'm not sure the rest of the LLMs have caught up to that feature yet. So there's a very specific reason I would use Gemini. And then on the right, I'm not going to go into it, but those are some of the tools that I use, which are not the underlying models, but those are actual tools. So just share in the chat, what is your favorite model or tool right now that you're using? Just share for the benefit of the group so everyone knows where you're at, and maybe there's a tool in there or a model in there that none of us have heard of and are interested to go check out. So please do share what's your favorite at the moment. And I'm going to move on. So the last thing I wanted to cover under the first topic of just understanding the AI landscape is how do you stay current amongst all these rapid changes? I think it's one of the biggest things that us as digital marketers keep asking ourselves. It's just, where do you even start with staying up to date? And I really want to encourage you to adopt a learning protocol or a learning rhythm or habit, because staying current in the stuff can feel like a full-time job. So I've shared already what's worked for me. I formed a community at the beginning of the year just for this purpose. I found communities really, really impactful. I've put some of my favorite ones in there. So the Marketing AI Institute is phenomenal. Ben's Bites is great. Maiden is my own community. The Rundown and AI for Non-Techies led by Heather Murray is also really a good one. So those are really nice communities, some of which have free options that are very valuable. Then stay informed and inspired. So I follow a lot of people on X and on LinkedIn. I put down 4 names there that came to mind when I was putting this down, but there's so many others that I could probably rattle off. But I do really recommend following some of these people, listen to podcasts, and then just experiment. There's no better learning than actually diving into these tools and putting a half an hour in your schedule every day just to do something with AI is really, really impactful. And remember that small steps leads to big progress. So again, if you've got a resource to share, something that you're following or you're getting a lot of value from in your AI learning journey, please share it in the chat so that everybody can put together a good list of resources to tap into beyond today's session. And I'd love to see where you guys are spending your time learning. So please do share as well. Okay, so we're going to move on to our second topic now, which is prompt engineering for LLMs. And there was a question that we'll come back to at the end of the session, or the section rather, to address. But let's dive into prompt engineering. So let's talk about, one of the most crucial skills in working with AI, which is still prompt engineering. And this isn't just about asking AI questions. It's actually about knowing how to guide AI to give you exactly what you need. And it is true that prompt engineering is evolving quite significantly, and we are moving into a space where the field of kind of adaptive prompting is coming to the fore, and people are not, you don't actually have to be as good at prompting as you would have had to be like a year or 2 ago. A lot of the AIs can write prompts for you now, which a lot of people do. But I think it's still a good practice to understand how to communicate with these large language models, because there is a lot of nuance in playing with your prompts to see the types of outputs that you're getting, rather than relying on what's being described by, an adaptive prompt, etc. So what is prompt engineering? Well, think of prompt engineering as briefing a very capable but literal-minded team member. So one of the advantages that we have as marketers is that we are communications professionals and we are used to briefing other teams. So a lot of marketers have to spend time briefing design teams, exactly the same way you would, you wouldn't just tell a designer make something nice. You'd be specific. You'd create a very specific brief. Same concept applies in prompt engineering. Two of the biggest frustrations that I hear from marketers is, that I just keep getting generic, unusable outputs that miss the mark, or just not knowing where to start with structuring my prompts. And these are really normal challenges that we can overcome quite easily. And like I said, the way prompt engineering is evolving, a lot of the time you can get support from the AIs directly in crafting your prompts. But why does it matter? Well, the quality of your prompts directly will determine the quality of the AI outputs that you get. So if you're mastering the way you prompt, AI can become a far more reliable partner rather than a hit or miss tool. So just to give you a very superficial and basic example is you don't want to go with like a vague prompt, which could apply to any product or any platform, but you would rather look at the refined prompt where you're getting a bit more specific. You're giving clear direction on the platform, you're giving specific direction on the audience, you're giving direction on the key messages, the tone, etc. So there's really 3 kind of overarching principles that anyone entering the realm of prompt engineering needs to consider to get better results from AI. And each of these builds upon the next. But the first technique is really just aiming for clarity. So that's really the foundation of good prompting. And the next one is giving context. So this is where you want to add any background information that shapes the output. And finally, it really is about iterative refinement. It's an iterative process because great prompts often evolve. And it's important to stay with that in your conversations with an LLM to really enhance the prompt and get the best version of it. My preferred structure, this is a really loose example, but I was just trying to write it out quite quickly. I did this in like 20 seconds. This is kind of my go-to prompt that I would, if I opened up ChatGPT right now, this is kind of the structure I would propose. I would give it a role. So I would tell it that you're an experienced email copywriter. I would say you've got 10 years of experience working in a specific industry. I'd specify exactly what they're good at, what skills they have, what they know. And we're going to get into why this matters in a bit. And then I would give them a task. So then I would say, well, with this role in mind, please do X. And in that, I would specify as much detail as possible. So give them the target market, give them the segment, give them the goal that I'm trying to achieve. And then I would define what success looks like. And please make sure to include, and I'd include specific details as well. I would then probably also include examples if I had any to help the AI understand exactly what I'm looking for. And then I provide further instructions like, please match the tone and voice used in examples. And I would also put in constraints. So constraints are also useful to say, don't do this or avoid doing this. That can also really shape the AI output. And then I always finish my first prompt with, do you need any further information from me before you begin? And that's kind of that meta prompting philosophy where you actually ask the AI to reflect on what you've asked and then push back to you what else would be useful for it to do its best work. And that's kind of how you're co-creating the prompting relationship with the LLM to get the best output. We all know that asking an LLM the same prompt in a different LLM can generate different results. So a really fun tool to check out is one called ChatHub. ChatHub, it is paid for, it's a Chrome extension, and it lets you test a prompt across multiple LLMs. So if you aren't sure where to put your money, I know this is another thing that comes out of my learning circle is that people like, if you only had $40 a month or $20 a month, however much ChatGPT is now, where would you put it? And they're always asking me to give them guidance as to which model would I pay for if I had to choose. If you're not sure and you're in the same boat, play with a tool like this to see which LLM is giving you the results or the type of outputs that you prefer that are better for your work. You don't have to bounce around from one LLM to another to try them out. You can try it in this format. If you don't want to pay for this Chrome extension, there is another way to do this. There is a space called lmarina.ai, and this lets you kind of put two models against each other and check their LLM output so you can see which one is giving you the best output. Why is learning to prompt still really important? Given the space of, we've been through that evolution of AI capability earlier on in the session, but prompting is still, right now, it's still very much a foundational skill that helps you get the best out of LLMs. And I'll give you a good example. A lot of my work in AI right now is actually in AI automation. So I build a lot of automations in make.com to automate certain, repetitive processes in marketing. And in that, I often will create custom assistants in OpenAI, which I will call on via an API in my automation. You don't have to know about these technicalities right now, but the way I instruct that assistant in my automation is still very much reliant on good prompt engineering. And I haven't found a tool yet or a resource yet that is able to do better prompts than my own, because I know exactly what I'm looking for and I understand the nuance of what I'm looking for. And the success of my automations always come down to how good my prompting is in those automations. So that's like an advanced level AI skill. And I'm still finding the basic level prompt engineering skills to be quite impactful at that stage. So I don't think there's any harm in investing in understanding prompt engineering. And of course, it's easier now than it was. So we do have tools that can help us, and that's great, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't invest the time in really being thoughtful and intentional in how you are instructing your AI assistants. The other thing that I often hear in my learning circle is that I'm constantly getting varied results. Like, why is this happening? You know, one day I ask ChatGPT one thing, the next day it gives me something else. Or, you know, I ask Gemini something and it's totally different. And it's really important. This is one of those moments where I've seen a lot of novice users of AI incorrectly understand how an LLM works and how it is trained. So a really important thing to know about working with LLMs is that, or just with Gen AI in general, is that Gen AI is generative. So on the left, it's babies smoking in a cinema, totally made up. It's fake. And the thing about generative AI is it's probabilistic. It is not deterministic, which you see on the right. There are two types of AI. So AI can either be generative or it can be deterministic. And Gen AI, what we're working with, is this generative probabilistic output. So you are going to get different results every time. It's like autocomplete on steroids, whereas deterministic AI is discriminative. You get the same results every time. Gen AI is not deterministic. So if you are expecting the AI to be accurate every time, to give you the same response every time, it can't do that. It's not how it's designed. It's another reason why you should not use ChatGPT as a search engine. Yes, you can use the new search function, that's a new thing, but just standard ChatGPT is not a search engine because the information it's going to give you is still probabilistic. It's not factual, it's not specific, it's variable every single time. And because of this, it makes things up. So a lot of this comes down to how the LLMs are actually trained, how they learn, how did they get to the point that they are at. And I don't know if anyone knows the game Mad Libs, but Mad Libs is a kind of silly game of where you have to fill in the blanks in a scenario. But this mirrors how an LLM is trained. It guesses what the next probable word will be given the context it's given. So when we think about prompt engineering, we can imagine the back end of the LLM as a huge word cloud of every piece of knowledge on the internet. When we give it a prompt, we are giving it specific direction as to where in that word cloud it should go to. If you change the types of words you use, so if the same word, if you change the word cold to freezing to, I don't know, lukewarm, every single time, it's actually going to give you a different response. So that variability is inherent in how we use LLMs. And it's important to know because changing certain words might get you different outputs, but also just to know that variability and probability it's a characteristic of LLMs. It's not deterministic, and you should never use it in a way that makes it deterministic. So the last thing I want to say on prompt engineering is just I found this amazing little description. It came up on my LinkedIn feed a while ago, and I thought it was a really nice resource for anyone wanting to go into looking into more advanced prompting techniques. So I'm not going to go into it right now, but there's some really nice tips and tricks in this one for types of prompt engineering techniques you can go and play with. The only one I wanted to point out is number 7, where I did mention this earlier, the retrieval augmented generation. And if you are looking for any task that relies on limiting that variability and is more reliable, you want to be looking for RAG. And Notebook LM is a good example of a RAG where the outputs are more reliable because it's structured differently. It's source grounded AI. It's trained only on the data that is in that AI. It doesn't do the whole variability probabilistic thing that they normally would do. Okay, Sam, quick check-in on any comments, questions, and we will get to the questions at the end. I'm going to whiz through some of the next content.
No, we're good, Kay.
All right, great. Okay, so we're moving on to the next foundational topic that every digital marketer needs to know, and that is really about choosing the right AI tool, which again is a pain point that I often hear amongst marketers. So I often see, organizations or individuals jumping from tool to tool, trying to find the perfect solution. But the message that I want to land with all of you is that the power isn't in the tool itself. Again, coming back to that point I made in the beginning, it's in the foundational model that tool is built upon. So learning and understanding these models first makes your tool selection far more strategic. And what that means is really knowing what model is good for what types of tasks. So I've given you just a little table. This is my experience, and you will find everybody has a different view on these things. And it comes through practice and engagement with these foundational models. But I know just from my day-to-day use that ChatGPT 01 preview fantastic at analysis. If I want to do an analysis task, I go to that model. However, it has a limitation. I can't upload documents. So if I'm wanting to work with a data set in an Excel spreadsheet, for example, or in a Google Sheets file, I can't upload it, which is really frustrating. And then I will have to default to doing my analysis in 4.0, which is not as good as 0.1. But it still gets the job done, and it is still quite powerful. ChatGPT 4.0, great for everyday tasks. It's kind of my default model. It's the great all-rounder. ChatGPT 4.0 with Canvas. That is really good for editing and code work. So it gives you a visual workspace where you can direct inline copy edit if you're working with long form content that you want to edit quite quickly. It's a fantastic vehicle to do that. Claude 3.5 Sonnet with Artifacts. So Artifacts is Claude's version of Canvas. They actually were first to market with that functionality. It's amazing. Like Claude with Artifacts is one of my most favorite pairings, and it's probably the only reason why I keep my Claude account is because of the Artifacts feature. And I use that a lot for coming up with visuals, diagrams, and charts. And then Gemini, I've spoken to you already about that. I only use a video prompting, and Notebook LM I use for all my research and document analysis, which is really, really powerful. So just to give you the sense that when you start investing your time in understanding these foundational models, you learn what they're good at and also what they're not so good at. And by knowing that, you can evaluate a tool based on the underlying models it offers you access to, because you know what model you want to use, because you know it does certain things really well or doesn't do things very well. And I'll give you a real world example is when probably about a year ago, ChatGPT was not very good at data analysis. Thinking back now, it's crazy how fast and how far we've come, but it wasn't very good. So I was using a tool called Julius, which was it's a tool built on underlying models of ChatGPT, etc. But it was fine-tuned to deliver some really powerful data analysis, and I was finding it very effective for my data analysis work. However, recently I've noticed that ChatGPT 4.0 is far better in its individual capacity than the analysis I'm getting out of Julius. And that's because the tool, for some reason, hasn't been able to keep up with the underlying model's capabilities. So it's a real world example of how a tool that you're using may actually become outdated because it's not able to move with the pace of the underlying capabilities of the models. And that's why I advocate not for focusing on tools, but to focus on learning those foundational models first and foremost. So signs that you're actually tool first and you're not model first. So if any of these resonate with you, it's time to rethink your approach. If you're currently subscribing to multiple AI tools that do the similar things, like paying for 3 different content generation tools, I'm not talking about paying for ChatGPT and Claude as an example, but if you've got multiple AI tools, probably not thinking model first. If you're spending more time trying to learn tools than you are actually using them, you're probably not sitting there. You're probably not sitting being model first. If you're chasing every new AI tool and you see a new tool pop up on your LinkedIn feed or your Facebook feed or whatever, you're like, "Ooh, that looks cool. Ooh, that looks cool." Probably wasting your time. Like, don't get caught up in the tool hype. Focus more on underlying models. And once you've really mastered your understanding of that, then you can move into the tool hype. But save your precious time and focus right now. Marketing is fast-paced. You don't have the time to be spending all the time learning these tools. You need to understand the basics first and foremost. And lastly, if you're finding that your AI outputs are very inconsistent across tools, probably still because you're playing in tools and not really understanding how to get the best of the underlying model. Okay. So once you have built your knowledge in the underlying foundational models, you can start thinking about, okay, well, what tools should we be getting? So the first step in doing this is to really define your goals, but with a crucial twist. Again, you have to think about what model capabilities you need, not just what tools are popular. So instead of saying, we need an AI tool or we need ChatGPT, you need to be saying, we need a tool powered by a strong language model that can do content generation, or we need a model that's capable of understanding and generating brand consistent visuals. Start with the goal first, don't get caught up in the hype of oh my gosh, everyone's using AI, we need to do it. So notice though that each of these examples actually moves from this vague tool-focused thinking to being more specific on the model capability thinking. And that shift is really crucial for your success when you're selecting the tool. Once you have found a bunch of tools that you're wanting to explore, and you understand your goals in terms of model capabilities, we need to look at how you can evaluate those tools based on how they implement the underlying model. And here are 4 criteria that I would encourage you to come back to when you are at this point to use to choose which tools to invest in. So you want to find tools that are easy to use, and how well can your team actually get comfortable with it, or how quickly can you get comfortable with it within a week. You want to look if it actually integrates with your existing tech stack and your systems. So, in our context, we use HubSpot. Does the AI tool actually integrate with HubSpot? If not, it's going to cause friction. Does it solve your specific needs, and does it meet compliance standards? So we will get to the ethics piece in a bit, but there are regulations that we have to adhere to. So you need to constantly be checking that, as well as internal policies. So where there are a lot of businesses have internal policies around AI tools, important that you're checking those. And then lastly, I'm not going to go into this too much, but once you have, set your goals, you've evaluated which tools are right, you need to start testing and implementing. And just a key takeaway on this is that you really want to be starting small, picking a small pilot or a small part of your process rather than a broad scale rollout of a tool. And you want to make sure you are clear on the ROI you can get from using that tool in an AI capacity, and track those specific measures to make sure that it does meet the ROI that you're looking for. Now I'm going to move us on to the 4th topic, which is integrating AI into workflows. And I'm trying to speed us along so we can get some time for Q&A here. But the first, one of the biggest questions that I get in starting with AI is, where do I start? Like, where do I start actually integrating this into my workflows? And we spoke about this right in the beginning, but AI is great as a personal productivity tool, but where it really has value is when you start to think about how you can integrate it strategically into your marketing workflows. So what this section is about is to encourage you to start thinking, where can I start using AI? Not just as a personal productivity enhancer, but as a strategic partner in my marketing work. So, some of the tools, we can look at some of the tasks where AI can start adding immediate value. And it's often things like routine and repetitive tasks. And these are normally your quick wins. So look for the tasks that you're doing over and over, like social media scheduling, basic email responses, regular report generation. These tasks are all perfect for AI because they're structured and repetitive. AI is also great for data-heavy activities. So like tasks where you're processing lots of data, analytics reports, market research, performance tracking. AI can actually process data much faster than we can, and it could find patterns that we might miss. So it really is an important strategic partner in that work. In creative ideation, AI isn't about replacing creativity. I think that's just something that I keep wanting to reiterate. It's actually about amplifying creativity. And I often hear people say, or in my learning circle, my creatives in that session say it often helps them overcome blank page syndrome, where they just don't know where to start, or they just need help getting over that first hurdle of an idea. And then lastly, we can look for opportunities in personalization, which is kind of the new space of AI in marketing. But key message here is just, start with the tasks that are repetitive, that are time consuming, or that actually are ready for scaling. But the question I want to leave you with here is what tasks take up a lot of your time, or what don't you like doing? And if you can answer that, it's likely you can see where to start with AI. So if you can share in the chat, what tasks are currently taking up a lot of your time? Where would you like to start using AI? Or what don't you like doing? Give us some thoughts on where you think AI could be useful in your marketing work right now. And while you do that, I wanted to share just what I use ChatGPT for on a daily basis. I actually asked ChatGPT, I went in and I said, ChatGPT, tell me, what tasks do I use you for and how frequently? And it gave me a breakdown of the things that I typically do. So to give you some real world feedback here, to summarize it, I've put some stuff on the right, but you can see the response on the left, so you can see it's real. But I typically use it for campaign management. I use daily work on email sequences, lead nurturing, social media ads. I use it for content and thought leadership. I'm using it for audience targeting and segmentation, for product marketing, positioning strategies, coming up with unique selling points, audience development. I use it for event marketing, looking at strategies for event promotion, for repurposing options, for conversion rate optimization, lifecycle marketing, endless. So you can see that my use of AI on a daily or multiple times per week or weekly or even monthly basis is extensive. And there are so many applications for AI when you start getting, when it starts becoming an intuitive skill for you to tap into. This slide talks about how we actually build AI workflows, but I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over it. You will get these slides, but I'm going to rather talk to a real life example. But what's important in this is just, when we're talking about a workflow, we're talking about a process, a marketing process that you have, that you want to think about, where can AI help me? So this is a real world example that I've got. So it has to always start with your goal. So you can see at the top, we've got a goal. We want to improve our CPL by X% of our meta ads for whatever product. And our objective is to refresh our ad creative with customer insights. This is a process that I mapped out for that specific work. So the first thing we're doing is to break it down into the actual tasks that have to happen. The first thing we're going to do is conduct customer interviews. We're then going to analyze those interviews. We're then going to generate insights reports. We're going to do a quality check. We're going to deliver that insights report. We're then going to ideate our new ad creative based on those insights. We're then going to create new ad copy based on those insights. We're going to edit the ad copy, create ad images or videos, and then launch new ads. So we've built up this workflow. This is how it works for us when we are trying to refresh our ad creative with customer insights. Now, the next question to ask yourselves is, what parts of this process should be outsourced fully to AI? What parts of it should be augmented with AI, meaning it's human first, but we use AI as a partner in it? And what parts of this process are human only? And it's really important to do this exercise because too often I see marketers make the mistake of just outsourcing a task entirely to AI and then getting disappointed with the results or feeling frustrated and abandoning the use of AI in general. So it's not about outsourcing things to AI. It's about understanding where to pull AI in strategically to help you get more work done or improve your results or improve the quality of your output. So you can see I've kind of put little bubbles to show you where I would pull AI in. So if we're conducting customer insights, here I might augment with AI by inviting an AI assistant into my meeting to do the transcripts for me. Then we're doing the analysis of the interviews. I would outsource that entirely to AI in the beginning because it can work with big data sets and it can pick up patterns I might miss. I would have it generate that first insight report, but then I would do a human-only quality check as the next point. And I would deliver the final insights report as human only based on my review and quality check of the data that came out of the AI. And then the rest of the process before launching the ads can all be augmented with AI to a degree. So again, just a useful way for you to start thinking about what are you trying to do? What is your workflow? And where should you be pulling in AI and where shouldn't you? And that brings us to our last foundational topic, and it's one or two more slides, and then we're actually done. I realize we are at time, and I am going to stay on for Q&A if anyone has questions. So we'll do that. And the future sessions are all going to be an hour and a half long. So just so you know that we are recognizing there's a lot of content to be covered. But lastly, just to talk quickly about responsible and ethical AI use, which is really, really important. So as AI becomes more integrated into marketing, ethical considerations aren't just theoretical discussions. They're actually practical challenges that we face daily. So we have to figure out how we navigate these responsibly. And some key areas for us to acknowledge and know about as marketers is obviously data privacy and security. And this is really about just handling data responsibly and securely. So for example, you can think about tools like meeting assistants like Otter AI. So many teams use those for meeting transcription, but what actually happens to that conversation data? Are we inadvertently contributing to AI training without proper consent? So there was actually a big outcry of Otter's usage policy, which did say, we will use your meeting data to train our AI. And that you need to know about as a marketer if you're going to be pulling an AI assistant into a meeting. So that's just one example. Whenever you're working with customer data, you need to make sure it's anonymized and properly stored. That's just, basic practice, good practice. The second thing is, AI bias and fairness. So the way that these AI models are trained, bias it's already there. So by default, the way that they've been trained has created inherent biases, and we need to be aware of that because it can affect everything from the way, we target our audiences to the content generation of data that we're getting out of these LLMs. So AI bias isn't just a technical issue. It has real marketing implications that affect campaign performance and brand reputation. So one other thing I wanted to mention in this is the concept of AI, of automation bias. And I've seen this happen time and time again, where a team member will take what the LLM says as being the truth. And we spoke already about why you can't actually trust every single piece of content that comes out of an AI because it is variable, it's probabilistic, it does hallucinate. But you are making strategic decisions off this information, and you have to be so careful that you are sense checking, that the human in the loop thinking is always there, because it can be very costly to make a decision based on data that hasn't been checked. And a lot of people, because they're using this to improve their efficiency, they're working really fast, they just trust what the AI has given them as the truth and they run with it. Very, very dangerous. You cannot do that. You have to take the time to check and verify the data that's coming out. And transparency, being open about AI, builds trust rather than diminishing it. And customers really do appreciate honesty in how this tech is being used. So an example here in South Africa is that there is a very well-known travel magazine here called Getaway Magazine. And last month, their edition came out with a cover image that was actually an AI-generated image. And it wasn't disclosed. It was found out. Huge outcry, huge brand damage. Very interesting discussion point. We'll probably talk about that in session 4 when we go into ethical considerations in greater detail. And yeah, for the purposes of the time, I'm going to skip through the rest, but regulatory awareness, you need to be aware of the EU AI Act and other regulations that are coming out, and just being conscious of the societal impact, because every time we use these AIs and when we talk about it, we're setting precedents for future AI use, and that's our responsibility as marketers to be aware of that stuff. So at this point, congratulations. You have now kind of immersed yourself in the 5 foundational topics that every digital marketer really needs to make sure that they are keeping on top of right now. So hopefully this was a good shortcut for you. It certainly is a shortcut from my side, because I'm sharing with you 10 months worth of conversations I've had with digital marketers on these topics, and this is what's emerged. So, let's hopefully help make sure that this accelerates your AI journey. A quick view into what's next for future sessions. You've got a session 2 coming up in a few weeks' time. And that is all around planning the use of AI in marketing. And there will be a guest speaker in that event called Andy Crestodina, a really awesome speaker. You're going to love this. Please don't miss it. It's going to be high impact. I'm very excited. Then there is a session on implementing AI in marketing departments that Jenna will also be facilitating. And there will be a guest speaker there, Jill Quick, who will be doing a live demo into understanding the use of Gen AI in data analytics, which is going to be quite fun. And then the last session of the series is a deep dive into AI ethics and safety. Really, really important. I think Simon is on the call today. Simon will be leading a guest session on this one, and we're gonna get into some live demo. Simon's waving. Hi, Simon. We're gonna get into a live demo to really understand and identify how to manage ethics and safety with AI. So with that, I'm going to close. Thank you so much for your attention, and we can dive into some questions. Like I said, I'm happy to stay on. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to receive any emails. My email address is there on the bottom of the screen. You can pop me an email if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to engage with you on this topic. I'm a little obsessed. So I'm going to stop sharing there and move over to some questions if there are. Okay, Sam, I can actually see the questions now. So let me see. Okay. Let's go. Whoa. Okay, there's a few things that have come through here. Sam, have you been keeping tabs on the questions, or should I just go through?
You can scroll to the bottom. There's 2 questions in the chat.
Okay. I have a question. It's more like a discussion about the pattern of integration, because I believe that in theory this works perfectly, but is there the risk that humans will rely more on the use of AI rather than their creativity, like for the creation of copy? Well, that's the first point in itself. Sure, we could have a big discussion around this topic. It is something that comes up in my learning circle a lot. Talking about, is AI making me lazy? What are we doing to the way we think? And people have different stances on this. Some people argue that learning to use AI in the way that we are is actually a new cognitive skill. So while we certainly are reducing the time spent thinking of certain things, we're gaining cognitive skills in other ways that is helping us be more strategic, be more human. So there's that argument to be made. I don't, at this stage, where we are at with AI, certainly for right now, I can't speak for tomorrow because of this moving so fast. AI is definitely not a replacement for human creativity. What I'm seeing is that if you do average work, your outputs with AI is going to remain average. You'll never be able to get it to the point of great work. But if you do great work and you are exceptionally creative, you can use AI to really accelerate or amplify that creativity and do even better work. So I think that, yeah, I don't think creativity is going to go away anytime soon. I think that's pretty safe. I don't see robots taking the creative juices away from humans right now. But yeah, we could have a long topic about that. Hopefully that answered your question a bit. He also said, I have some ethical concerns about the way the AI are trained, especially for the creative parts like image generation. I'd also like to know your opinion. Okay. The way AIs are trained, again, is a big ethical consideration. I think it's definitely a topic that Simon and I will probably touch on in the last session of this series, because there is a dark side to Gen AI, and it specifically does come down to how they're trained. The one thing that I know of is that OpenAI was paying workers in Kenya ridiculously tiny amounts to filter content, to moderate content that the LLMs were being trained on. And these people in Kenya were seeing the worst of the worst of the worst of stuff online and in content. And there's actually a documentary created about this. I can't remember what it's called. I was told not to watch it, so I'm glad I don't know the name. But what it led to was a mass increase in suicide rates amongst these workers who were asked to content moderate. So there are practices, there are things that we need to know about in the background, that is feeding the way these LLMs are trained. But yeah, I think that's a conversation we can deep dive into in a future session. How important do you think it is to know programming like Python or understanding LLMs in general? Okay, so to use Make and to create automations, you don't need to know Python at all. It's no code automation. Anyone can, oh, thanks, Simon, you shared the Kenya workers thing. Yeah, so anyone can do make.com automations. It's actually quite easy. It feels very technical in the beginning, but once you get over that initial hurdle, as with everything in AI, it's actually quite easy to do. If you know Python, it's just a leg up in this whole world. So I actually went down the route of starting to learn basic Python at one stage because I realized it could really enhance the way I use AI. But then I decided that would be a waste of my time because there's so much more to learn in terms of the breadth of AI application in marketing. So I stopped, and I haven't felt the impact of not knowing Python, but I don't know what I don't know. So I do know people with Python skills can do a lot more. So if you have the capacity or interest and you want to learn Python, it wouldn't be wasted. Okay, writing blogs and website content is time consuming, can be sped up greatly using AI, but I get concerned about if or how Google will punish you for using AI generated content. This is going to be covered in the next session, where we are going to deep dive into SEO and what that means for how Google is reviewing AI content. However, the basic principles of SEO still remain, that AI content will be punished if it doesn't add value, and if it's just clearly AI content for the sake of AI content. So at the end of the day, your content needs to add value. It needs to be useful. It needs to be structured in a way that helps people pull out specific questions. One of the biggest trends right now for ranking in search engines is the way you structure your content. So focusing on your schema and having very specific sections that can be pulled out in those AI overviews in Google. But yes, deep dive into that coming in session 2. What are your thoughts about AI agents, and do you use any already? AI agents is pegged to be the future. It is apparently where we're going, and that could be anything from 3, 6, 9 months away, not sure. I'm personally very excited about it. I don't use agents formally yet. I have been playing with a tool called Relevance AI, which lets you build your own AI agents. I think it's very exciting. It's going to change the game again, as we've learned. It just keeps changing, and we've got to keep keeping up. But yeah, I think that is something you should keep your eye on. It's going to be the next agenic future is what's coming. Let's see what else. What else is coming up here? Can you elaborate a little on how you created the email fatigue custom model you referred to at the top of the session? All right, so that one, Alex, that is using Claude to create a basic web app in Artifacts. I would need to give you a tutorial for that. So I'm not going to go into that right now. If I get some time, I will try and record a video for you on how I built that, because it's quite a fun exercise and maybe it'll inspire you to build your own. I'll try and do that. Let me see what else I'm missing. Okay. Okay, we spoke about that. I have to fill out an Excel spreadsheet about ESGs where I have to fill out what company is about, all contact information for the head offices, extra information. 100% that is a task that is ready for AI to help you. Alessia, that is something I would most likely build an automation around. There is a tool called Appify. Again, this is a little advanced, so I would really encourage you, depending on where you are in your AI journey, focus on learning the basics first, and then walk before you can run. But you could easily use Appify in meg.com to scrape information for you in an automated fashion. Obviously, the warning here is that GDPR compliance, and you don't want to be just scraping data for the sake of data. What are you going to do with the data is the question. The other thing I've seen being done with Meg is scraping Google Maps for addresses and businesses details and putting that into a spreadsheet. There's something on that. I will review these comments, and if I've got quick resources that can help any of you do this stuff, I will share it in the follow-up. But yeah, we can get into a lot of detail here. Email marketing workflow and HubSpot, social media content. Okay, that was something you wanted to build. Book to write good prompts is the only ChatGPT prompts book you'll ever need. Great, thank you for sharing. I'm just checking if there's anything else. I think that is it. Are there any other questions that anyone has before we close?
There's another question at the bottom.
Okay.
There's actually two that just came through. So the first one is also Adobe is selling Firefly image generation capabilities on the fact that it is trained and owned stock, and as a result indemnifies against potential copyright, which it says Gemini and others don't, as they trained in open internet access. Can you tell us about the risk of image generation and potential lawsuits that may be going on at the moment?
Sure. Alex, to my knowledge, no lawsuits have been concluded yet. So the jury is still out on these sort of issues. I may be wrong. The last time I checked, no one had won a case yet. It's such a gray area because a lot of the LLMs do operate on a fair usage policy. So, a lot of them are saying that they can do what they're doing because they're just using broadly open content on the internet. And copyright infringement differs from territory to territory. So whether you're in, America versus South Africa versus the UK, everyone has a different stance in this. So I think the overarching message here is that compliance and regulatory bodies and memos are still emerging. So it's such a gray area. And so is copyright with AI, like who owns what an AI generates. So I think this is also something I would say let's peg for session 4. And Simon and I can talk to that a little bit under copyright laws, which is really interesting. And by the time we get to that session, I'm sure we'll see some lawsuits conclude and hopefully have some more data on that. One of the use cases in my learning circle, which was really interesting, one of the first ones was that a big global FMCG company was launching a new campaign, and they found out that the creative team actually used an augmented AI image for the master sort of the content that they were going out with. And it wasn't disclosed, and it went live, and the business just totally floundered. They weren't sure how to respond to that. Like, is that a problem? Who owns that image? Do we tell our customers? So these are the real ethical concerns marketers are dealing with right now, with copyright and with not disclosing imagery. Hopefully that gives you some context to that, Alex, but a very detailed question. And then the last question, a client wanted to implement an AI tool to increase sales. The tool ended up adding 2 purchase buttons for each product, creating complete confusion. We had to request they remove the tool. Are AI tools really ready to collaborate intelligently with the UX? That is fascinating, Federica, and not surprising, given what is capable from AI. I think what that speaks to, again, and we spoke about it, is if you are going to be implementing any AI tool, you need to follow that small project test pilot before you full-scale launch anything. AI is not ready to be used in isolation. You have to maintain the human in the loop in all of your applications of AI right now. It's not ready to run wild. We see instances like this all the time. There was that chatbot that was giving people discounts on airlines and giving away free tickets and stuff. I mean, it's endless. So yeah, I think we'll see more and more of that. But please do your testing before you roll out anything. It is dangerous. I see Simon's just shared a nice resource as well, which we can include in the follow-ups. So we are 16 minutes over. Hopefully today was useful. Give me some feedback in the chat. Did you learn something new? You're feeling empowered, excited in your AI journey? It was great to spend time with all of you, and we are certainly looking forward to seeing you in the future sessions that are going to come up. AI is really exciting, and yeah, I'm excited to see how you can pull this into everything you're learning in the digital marketing space. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Hi, Claire. Just last question. Is it possible to
Sure.
join your learning circle that you mentioned? I know you didn't answer the question, but
yes, sure, Tanya. You can just go to maiden.community and have a look. And there's a sign up form there.
Sorry, which community is that?
Maiden. I'll share with you right now in the chat. You can go to this link. Okay, there you go. Awesome. Thank you so much. Great to see you all. Bye.
Bye.